Chapter 8. The Council. Quote, "It's no shame to be born stupid, only to die stupid." Eric Maria Remarque. All of this created an indescribable codex for those of the closed council who did not expect the creation of a new order, a new world that they could no longer control, because to enter, it was necessary to have genuine compassion, not desire, that is to say, no foolish compassion or codependency. The joy of giving that love without compressing that energy of love, without being dry. Because in the end, it will give you more in return, being an enlightened master without expectation. With mature love, like a true revolutionary, like a bodhisattva. The president of the council is already exhausted with the issue because he thought he had controlled the situation of the Son of Man very well while he was in the coma phase in the infinite city of columns. He lived by rules incongruent with life, with nature, to the point of leading him to the abyss, or as Bernini calls it. We turn you into garbage and throw you into the trash can, so I have to cover my eyes. But now that garbage, just like alchemy, transforms into a significant stone for his family, who was waiting for him. So it's causing a strong headache and disruptions not only for the president and his council, but also for the triad. These are the states of the council house, with the Russian bear from Valera and the great Chinese dragon from Zhao, and their future plans. Okay, after this break and this good lunch, I could shed more light on this topic. Dear brothers, we are forgetting that we are experts in accusations of pedophilia, sexual violence, homosexuality, among other small things. 11 reminds his High Council colleagues. Yes, and who will believe you? We not only have to set the stage scenically, but also by the entire jurisdiction and public opinion. Even though we are rich, we can't cover the reality because he doesn't have the profile to do such things. Despondently says 4, if ours haven't been able to conclude this task, then what is the use of the list of friends, Icaros, that we have in this world, and the people who sell themselves for a good figure? Remember that everything has a price in this life, and besides, we are masters of persuasion, the art of rhetoric, as we know how to do things that humanity does not know, and this plays to our advantage. Remind 6 to all of them in the council. They print money, but money comes and goes. But your time, your time, it's unique and divine. Think that only God offers you this gift on loan, and only God knows when to take it back. So, invest it in good things to grow personally while helping others. Quotes 1 to interrupt 6 from his less altruistic ideas. What are you talking about? Asks 6 to the expert 1. Nothing. It's just something I read this morning in a newspaper, and it stuck in my head, closes the conversation 1. I think I've had indigestion. I have to leave for a little. I need some fresh air. 6 quickly disappears from the assembly that is in full discussion. I take advantage of the occasion too, and 9, who was sweating cold, leaves the meeting. But we still have the angels from Mrs. Gerda Hullenbanda, says 6 very cheerfully. Praise be to God, exclaims 4. Do you meaning all the important works of art and paintings we have everywhere with cherubs and all the other ranks of angels? Says 2, who always lives in divine goodness. By God, too, no, Cristo della Madonna. Angels are the eyes and informants that move delicately like the Holy Spirit everywhere. Remember Baron Francis Bacon, knowledge is power. And they cut with the pocket knife so deeper since they found the first opportunity. Lights it up 6 to 2. But if he doesn't accept money or being bought, then send him more zocole, putas, aquageda. Yes, those greater aguas mansas that we have at our mercé, suggests 11, another way to deceive him. Have you ever seen a lion playing when it's hungry and hunting for the savannah? Moreover, a lion does not mate with a hyena or a sow because it has his standards, reminds 1 to 11. Let's take a brief pause, as we seem a bit exhausted in debating an endless story that is leading us to lose sight of the point. So, let's resume in 10 minutes. After noticing a certain nervousness and anxiety, the president makes a wise decision. And back at the council table with the experts of this drama. Why are we dealing with this son who is just one person? We, who have finished entire peoples, kings, governments, and peoples? Expert 12 asks, still surprised by the case they are discussing. Quote, "There is no saint without past, nor a sinner with a future." Saint Augustine of Hippo. Because the Africans are already calling him the Lion King, ours Mansa Musa, who is humble before God and generous with his people. The Greeks call him the Emperor Dog, as he is a fusion of Alexander the Great, the Emperor, and Diogenes of Sinope, the dog, who wags his tail when given something to eat, barks at those who don't, and bites the wicked very hard. So move away when you cover his son so that your hand doesn't tremble. Also, the Lebanese and countries of the Arabic language and similar areas have named him the madman, the vagabond, the prophet of Khalil Gibran. The Americans and other English speakers call him the Neo, the newborn. The English told him, "You went from Pinky to Peaky Blinders." From Israel to the leopard spots all over the world, they say, Moses arrived with the new Kir code. The Mongols and other Asian peoples named him Temujin. Buddhists from all parts of nature name him Jo, the found one, because you've come out of hiding, resurrected from Finding Jo, because he was sent far from where he could be found and left in the mire like a reclining Buddha covered in dung, mud, and organic waste, so that the precious metal hidden in him cannot be recognized. One stops because he is interrupted by an open question from 11. Found, what kind of precious metal? Hidden from what? And where? Why didn't anyone tell me anything? Asks 11 angrily. Found that material from Atlantis that is rare and precious, studied by Jesus in Egypt. Those Thoth tablets that are indestructible because they violate the laws of physics in ionization. Those that emanate high vibration and energy frequencies. That's why it was hidden from evil and unscrupulous people like us. And then Thoth suddenly appears at night, like a scorpion, and with a quick sting impregnates Sarah, who was called barren. Replies 1 to 11, who is left speechless. But so, it's what everyone was waiting for, a creation of human and divine, because it was not proclaimed by another powerless man, but nature itself has chosen and anointed him. Away from his father's mountains in spirit, stolen from his mother's forests in spirit, and raised in the middle of the heat of the Caribbean. All this to make him expand his mind and heart to 360 degrees. After humanity had lived and witnessed so many atrocities of evil and violence without stopping, leaving a human being sterilized of his consciousness, that is, away from his being, says 2 to everyone in the council. And how did they do it? 6 asks scared about what's to come. As was traditionally done in the East with the Buddhists, who kept a secret alliance with each family in the Himalayan region, where the latter were happy to give up their first baby to bring balance to this world, do more harmonious work for the good of living beings and this planet. Consequently, many of these firstborns led a parallel normal life with work and family. But after the red communists of the Great Leap into the Abyss found out what they were doing in that place, that is, the spread of awakening, this was not pleasing to their government plans, the state, because it was not considered to create a balance with the earth and the cosmos. Consequently, they began to persecute them all, even reaching the destruction of Buddhist temples and their teachings, making them lose everything with abuse of power, torture, and extermination. Therefore, The fortunate few were exiled, monks and nuns, to foreign lands. However, this was inconsequential and useless for their enslavement plans of that region, because they passed on that wisdom with a simple spiritual touch and often with a single glance in the eyes. Simple and invisible, so all the genocide, suffering, and cremation were sterile in the long run. Therefore, the divine emperor, who was only in exile, and who along with his monks and nuns performed the ceremony of the fourth cycle, unknown to the world, to pass on that resurgence of energy from his master into a hope for stability. That's why this creature born from the womb of a woman could receive gifts from the universe through a sacred ceremony performed by Vajrayana Buddhist monks, since the Buddha did not enter nirvana, but continues with his energy here to illuminate more people. However, the great red dragon, along with other allies, wanted to have those lands with all their riches. 2 tells the story, not only for the goodness of its lands, but also to suppress that tradition of balanced good and evil in the world. Yes, destroying every material of wisdom, eradicating all their sacred places, stripping them of their lands, and killing anyone who disagreed and defended their people. Did you remember? Right, we collaborated on this too, didn't we? 2 responds, bewildered by everything that has happened, and takes a pause while they all think about the consequences, as the plan completely failed long ago, and this creates a certain suspense in the council. After the brief pause, 2 speaks again. For this reason, and in correlation with 2 world wars experienced in the West that left only so much death and hunger for many. Therefore, all the peoples who were desperate and clutching for a solution to what had happened and what could still happen in the future years, and after trying everything, monarchy, democracy, communism, fascism, and other forms of governance that did not lead to human balance. A ceremony was secretly organized with 2 women, 2 eggs that fused remotely in time and space, to give birth to a child who would carry that fusion of energy in the reincarnation of a Vyasa, a Shakya Muni, the Siddhartha Gautama reborn, in such a way that many countries collaborated and gave birth to an alliance of eternal light in response to the situations experienced previously. Having to choose a stable spiritual fusion with a father in spirit who is the wise man of Loma, the divine emperor representing ancient wisdom, goodness, and altruism, while he could no longer live in the high mountains of this land. Instead, his mother in spirit is intelligent, empathetic, strong, and determined. She is Amirna or Niobe, the queen of the northern lands, a terrain nourished by the waters of the Rhine. But they could not let him grow up in a family from Eastern countries, just as not in the hearts of European peoples, because it was too dangerous to let him grow up and be educated in those places, as they were already searching for him to murder him and prevent him from growing. That's how his energy left the planned continents, and they waited to find him again. 2 finishes. Why is Amirna also called Niobe? Asks the curious and confused 6. Because Amirna knows that she cannot make the mistake of Niobe, and first abandons him to make him grow in an unexpected place for many. And then, when her son wakes up, neither the mother can approach nor the son because they have higher priorities. Even though they miss each other, they feel that love of mother and son from a distance. When he thinks of her, and when she thinks of him, explains 1 to 6. In this way, he was rediscovered by the keen scent of a dog, and protected with an intangible shield in the midst of chaos to let him grow, train, educate, and when he is ready, call him and take him to Renania. And still, the son remembers when, returning from his swimming lesson, some shady men stop him to offer a game opportunity. The game of 3 cards, and if he wanted to play this simple game of chance. Hey, look, do you want to play? It's very easy, one of the men explains and shows him, along with his colleagues, the trap that is very easy to play and win, showing him various simple attempts at a glance. "Yes, but I can't. I don't have money with me," the young man thinks and hesitates because he has nothing to bet on this game of fortune. Then the men tell him, "No problem. You have that digital watch you're wearing. What is it? A Paseo. Nice." And at that precise moment when the young man was about to bet on these damn cards, Gnome appears out of nowhere, touches him on the back, and looks at him to tell him in a fraction of a second with his eyes. "Don't do it. Don't make any bets and go home now." Gnome communicates to the young man with an intense look that they could communicate telepathically. And so the son does. He leaves that betting table, and when he looks back to thank this unknown man, he had already disappeared into thin air. And thus, uncommon things begin to happen to him since he started his training and education process in his adolescence. In such a way, and while he was always in that same danger zone, that is, on a Guagua de la Duarte con Paris, he talked to Noam, but did not recognize that he is the same person who saved him a few days before at the three-card table, and Noam enters the bus shortly after the son, because he was there to deliver a message and protect him at the same time. "Does this bus go to the city, right?" Noam asks him. "Yes, exactly," the son replies, and after a brief, informal introduction, they both begin to talk about everyday life. Quote, "Whether I live or die is immaterial. It is enough to know that there are people who commit time, money, and energy to fight this one evil among so many others predominating worldwide. If they do not succeed today, they will succeed tomorrow." Ken Saro Wiwa. Gnome carried a book with a very interesting front illustration featuring a child from the East, dressed like a Buddhist emperor, seated in the middle of a beautiful and traditional temple. "Do you like to read? This book is about The Little Buddha by film director Bernardo Bertolucci. Do you know him?" Gnome explains what the book is about. "Yes, I like to read. It seems interesting even though I don't know this director," the son tells Gnome. "Do you like movies?" Gnome asks another question. "Yes, I do, but I don't know him, and I haven't seen this movie yet," the son replies. "Watch that movie. You'll like it. Have a good day." Gnome bids farewell with a brief military salute, plating his right hand on his forehead, and thus Gnome leaves the bus, allowing the son to understand many more things. "Thank you. You too," the son responds with a smile. The conversation concludes to pass through the portal of time and space, like the magic of the metaverse, crossing and using that alchemy to return once again to the accursed council. That's why he woke up from that dream, from that nightmare, given with a white cloth soaked in ammonia to narcotize his mind and heart. But rising from that fall allowed him to run through different stages: suffering, healing, rebirth, and awakening, to know Nietzsche's Übermensch, going through the camel phase, submissive, obedient, and grounded in God, with vital values imposed and never questioned because he has to do it, thus creating a motto, "I must." But after breaking those barriers, facing reality and renouncing the past, he becomes a lion, establishing himself in God mind, the death of God, meaning his archaic and inapplicable values in harmonious life, forming a new motto, "I want." But there is a successive step that goes beyond, that is a bit further. He will become a Superman, anyone with the representation of the child, because he does not deny, does not hate, does not destroy. Like an alchemist, he forms the new motto, "I transform," because he is a creator. One explains what is going on in those places with the sun. But wasn't it Dennis Rodman? That's what Kim Young believed in his Northern Corals. Six confusedly replies. No, he's not. Kim caught the wrong fish, one concludes. I'm fed up with this dog creature. They say it reads minds with its eyes, and its body feels negative and positive vibrations. Who trained this beast? What is this? Who coached him? Who educated him? Did he come out of the Greek Olympus or the Roman Tasso? Exhausted, Six asks because he doesn't understand how only a man like the sun can be so quick and effective against a tradition that imposes itself and has always won the Olympics for more than 1,400 years, deceiving all peoples with its air of superiority. No, he was actually expelled for irreverence from the Olympic, where he trained and undisciplined towards the authorities of Liceo Juan Pablo Duarte, located in a poor neighborhood of Villa Consuelo in Santo Domingo. I would call this the Nova Divina Lectio outside the Patti Lateranense. One size relaxed before the council. But we have to speed up with reforms and modifications to give more opportunities to homosexuals and the African community, among other forgotten minorities. Expert 12 pushes the accelerator on this topic that is of personal interest to him. Yes, Africa, Africa, Africa. They could easily give their lives for the love of the resurrected Jesus Christ. Shouts 4 unrestrained. But being gay is not a sin, interrupts, and asks 2. Silence. 2, brothers. I remind you that Africa is not stupid as before, even though we have taken away everything to live, leaving them without education or a health system. But they learnt after the last wars, when they were sent to the front lines with promises of a sweet smoke, and continuing to take advantage of the kindness of that land, exploited by all will not be easy. Despite the impression of the false CFA coins or currencies, which is nothing more than another falsehood of neocolonialism and military occupations in these villages, even deceived by the heroic kindness of the UN's blue-clad warriors, as everything is business. The secretary recalls the tradition of French coins, continuous military occupations to further sink the African continent into ignorance, and at the same time to silence and ignore too. But if we intensify internal segregations, create more illusion, and increase our power with a more versatile Commonwealth system than Rhodesia, like in Kimberley, 8 expresses his aspirations to promote power outside his territory, outside his palace. Ah, you mean that game of printing money to throw coins to the needy, like pigeons eating crumbs thrown on the ground. But they are the same ones who continue to prey on and bleed some countries in that continent that no one defends, and everyone takes advantage of. But sometimes when you squeeze a cow's udder too hard, it doesn't produce more milk. Instead, it produces butter, or worse, it starts to bleed until pus comes out. 2 expresses tired of the mental game of colonization and its economic derivatives. So it's better to forget about that, because Africans are preparing a diabolical system, something more structured than Greater America, more divided into small independent countries, and at the same time more compact for decision-making for the African continent. 3 shares in the council this new African order they are working on in that old continent. Diabolical. And who created this system? Wasn't it us? And what is this new system called? The president asks 3, very curious. I don't have clear data yet. It's called the Many Peoples or Peoples for Many, but it's something dangerous that is spreading across all continents and attracting the interest of many to move from macro to microcosmos in a few weeks. And this orders the musical notes of all. 3 finishes telling the worried president. Impious dissidents, 6 exclaims and shouts in the middle of the council table. Quote, worst comes to worst. My peoples come first. Dilated peoples. Then we must stop this demonic witchcraft as soon as possible. Remember, keep them divided. Otherwise, it will be dangerous to separate them all again and control them. The president demands that all council members intervene with all possible means and immediately. By the way, how are our finances, 6? The president asks, concerned. Active and untouched, 6 smiles, very satisfied with the president. Very well. Thanks heaven. And our foreign investments, 9, especially that open project we have in Africa. Have we been able to maintain the low risk for our plutocrat donors? The president asks more confidently. Let's say we've been able to eliminate those initial unforeseen events, and now they move invisibly with the Holy Spirit and multiplied like bread. With a wink and very relaxed, 9 makes the president understand that his finances are all under control. What a blessing. And our reserves, 3? The president asks 3 as well. Secured in our trusts, offshore accounts, and banks that seal each gold bar with a red wax cross to avoid confusion between the mountain ranges that graze cows and milk. 3 is pleased to give this news to the president. Blessed souls have already saved their lives. The president relaxes for a moment, pleased with the wealth of this old institution. Blessed be Ioris, our autonomous despotic law of the financial system, exclaims 3, very cheerful. But didn't Jesus already give his life for us, without any greed? Then who is our God? On the other hand, don't forget that the son was in Africa, and on his last visit to Madagascar. An African taught him to play better chess, to be a strategist. Responds 1, leaving a long pause in the council room. An African? No, do you mean a Russian? Exclaims the secretary, confused, and at the same time avoiding the question of who our God is, because it is very uncomfortable to answer. No, it was an African, from the same Horn of Africa, who showed him how to play with technique and elegance on a small private island. Instead, a dissident and rebellious Russian named Gorky taught him to surf the raging waves of Central America and the Caribbean, not to mention Palal and his Indian origin family, descending from caste without bothering with reincarnation, just to show the son at a young age how to move in the midst of people, parties, and complex situations. He takes him to the Cueva de la Guacara Taina with Steve Lawler and his light out, which means don't be deceived, and where to leave his teacher, Danuja Musashi, his sensei of Shotokan Karate Do, who teaches him discipline and respect before fighting with martial arts and using force. And all these teachers gave him a different plate of food to make him grow stronger and more versatile. One reminds the council of the sun's past by doing a leap into the past of the Son of Man. Sensei, when are you taking me to compete? I want to go to a competition because I want to fight. I like that. The son asks and confirms his interest. You are not ready yet, and I don't want to argue with your dad when you come back with a broken nose or missing a tooth. First, you have to learn the basics and the philosophy of martial arts. I'll teach you what you shouldn't use because you are a warrior of peace and harmony for society, for your people. Also, you have to add other arts, from friends and colleagues we have around here. Visit and receive other schools of Kung Fu, Jiu-Jitsu, that is, embrace the 8 guides of a Shaolin and more, teaches his master and Sensei Danuja. Yes, Sensei, the son replies to Danuja. Keep in mind to use force, only as a last option. Danuja reminds the son at the end of each training session. Arigato gozaimashita, he gratefully replies to his master and sensei. Therefore, and after almost 2 years, he takes him to a competition, knowing he was not yet ready. The son is immediately disqualified because he saw that the referees had been bought in favor of a child with his rich parents. So, he doesn't keep his calm and prefers to deliver a direct blow, not a touch as according to the tournament rules, with a fist to the face. And this was a lesson learned. Acceptance for when the time comes to respond without getting agitated. Returning to the Council of the 12. But after a few years, a religious servant from that area does not like what his master and sensei teach, since he is not a practitioner, when he was only taking young people out of delinquency, and they close the school since his blood twin betrays him as well. And he loses everything, even the unity of his family, wife and daughter. Devastated as a teacher and master, he leaves the country, to North America, New York. Confirms 1. Quote, the end justifies the means. Finis coronat opus. Niccolò Machiavelli. Forgive me, brothers, but can someone answer my previous question? 2 asks again, confused about whether being homosexual is a sin or not. So then comes 9, who wants to interrupt both. 1 and 2. Yes, but the Chinese dragon from Zhao continues to give gifts all over the African continent, so they owe him many favors, replies 9. So Africa is ours. Africa, Africa! What human capital? Perhaps China will conquer it again. Shouts 4 throughout the council. Did you take your medicine, 4? Asks 2 because he sees him very anxious, sweating, and agitated. I always take it, because the sisters always take very good care of me. Why? Responds an annoyed 4 to the question. It was just a question, 4, because if it's true that the Red Dragon is treating Africans better with smart investments or respectful relationships, like everyone at the beginning, Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, English, Italian, or German. If we must compare this with the predatory colonialism of the last 300 years that France under Charles de Gaulle has had, and its evolution into neo-colonialism of exchanges, but this is not enough yet. 2 looks at him with internal calm. Besides that, we have to convert more souls for the next eternal life, not proselytizing. Rather, for the simple fact that we have to welcome everyone. We also have our agents everywhere. They couldn't close this chapter. He lived here with us for years, and nothing could be done? 12 speaks again, irritated. Yes, we tried and we tried. In fact, the last time when he came to the sacred city to renew his travel book at his people's delegation. For this, we created a very original accident, unleashing unprecedented violence between 2 men, one weak on a motorcycle and another very strong in a car. And the son was there. He stopped while they argued, and he watched attentively, eager to defend the poor man who was being aggressively beaten, and he almost intervened in the fight, but unfortunately he didn't because it was as if he already knew what the agents were doing. The secretary explains what happened to the council. So, nothing in life happens by chance, but all of this has been entirely personal. Now I understand why the son distances himself from us, or enters another dimension to play with time. Responds 2 to the experts at the table. Enough, enough. Listen, what if the beautiful red rose, das Mädchen Rosemary, is murdered by a stranger? The son could be investigated and framed in this case, suggests the expert 9 to the council. Forget it, 9. You can't involve the son in something like that. It would be too obvious and dangerous. The beautiful red rose will remain a useful tool for us, at least until we achieve our more immediate goals. Intervenes 1, expressing disagreement with the proposal from expert 9. Quote, among words I am Om, the word of eternity. Of prayers I am the prayer of silence. And for how many things remain motionless? The Himalayas. And of all means of calculations I am the time. Among the beasts I am their king, and among the birds I am Vainateya. Bhagavad Gita. Moreover, the son has his own codes and ethics. He won't allow himself to be used in that way, and it wouldn't be wise to force him in that direction. There are other, more subtle ways to achieve our objectives. Adds 4, supporting one's position. The council chamber falls in silence for a moment, as each member reflects on the expert's words. Indeed, a very beautiful idea, but she is still very useful to us. She has offered us so much love, affection, and warmth on so many cold nights. Moreover, we have many gentlemen, rulers, businessmen, and high-class leaders of society that we need to conquer, seduce, and better understand their intentions to apply the right remedy to control their hearts and leave them spineless. The secretary objects because he adores the beautiful Rose so much for her services. No problem, dear secretary. Our recruiters and Madame Ufinda, who on the first floor, have a list of new girls, beautiful, sensual, and eager to receive attention and give tenderness, and they are already prepared and ready to seduce the sun. So, beautiful Rosemarie, that Nereda, can go on vacation to the island of Santa Alba. Ah, yes, I almost forgot. Only with a single coin for Haron or Karan emphasizes expert 9, closing every possibility of life for the beautiful girl. I understand, but we are already out of time. The secretary informs everyone of the latest developments. Then we neutralize Durga's bitch, who still has him in her palace, surrounded by her guardian tiger. Emphasizes 9, ready to attack with his own, with his legion. The bitch who, Durga? 2 says, unaware of why this woman from this sex religion is in the nominative. Oh, 2, please wake up and stop being asexual. Why don't you come down with a red tie ready for our no-trivial retreats? That is, those retreats of fire, sweat, and iron in the middle of the darkness of this holy house. But don't worry, the torches will guide you, and there we chain a novice for at least 3 days and 3 nights. And we take this sister on duty who wants to be the new apocalyptic harlot of the Roman code, and wants to receive the legion or colony of the orders of collectors who will donate our daggers and thorny flowers starting for a night on a full moon. In return, she gains the matriarchal power of Siesha, meaning that with her mind, she can decide the guidelines of this world. So, exhausted and without pauses, due to the cocktail of foods and stimulating substances she ingested, she will continue without stopping. Then, at the end of the ritual, Durga ate various live animals and insects as if they were bread, including a cat, a snake, and a praying mantis, because she desires the supreme power of man to be autonomous in the realm of this world and all the other secrets of the universe. Seeing her ambition for more, the great collector promises her to take and drink from a chalice that would give her power over the earth and beneath the seas, because she will be a woman goddess like Athena, but more spectacular, a mermaid human. But the great collector, along with the 7 elders, deceives her with the tail of a seahorse and a hot water moray, among other secret potions. That's why today she suffers so much in her skeleton, with little strength, confused thoughts. What am I? A woman or a man? And a total aversion to the cold because they made her ingest the brew of Kundabuffer, the brew of Medusa, to turn her into a demon with the power to see through mirrors. 6 clarifies how the apocalyptic harlots of each era are selected. Impossible. The Kundabuffer concoction. This is the Medusa's potion. That is the Nahash Seraph. That is terrible. And all of you participated? And whose daughter is this lost soul? A young woman who only wanted to do good in the best way possible, but was manipulated after being violated. Who has had to endure such a curse? 2 asks 6 because he does not believe what he is hearing, what a priestess has suffered. Not me, because I have Suor Antonella, who is my everything. But there were hundreds and hundreds who inserted daggers and thorny flowers into the vaginal coitus of this poor woman to recreate this unpleasant rite that we have carried on for centuries without stopping it. But I hope that one day the Lord of the Spirits will pass like a hurricane without stopping and sweep away all this abomination. 1 says calmly to 2, while the others remain in implicit silence of participation. For a priestess to hold this particular position, she must be the daughter of a patriarch and embody the antithesis of matriarchy and patriarchy. She and he, becomes both the anti-Elohim and the essence and of the natural life of this land. So she descended into Dante's Inferno and emerged anew, replied 2. No, fool, the hell does not exist. 6 shouts at him. It's just the basement of this old temple where we perform our saint rituals because it's our invention, Our little war book that we use to control the people while they pay taxes for so much stupidity and ignorance. How many times do I have to tell you to? 9 shouts at him. Quote, "Give me pencil and paper, and I'll draw you a beautiful rainbow, or your worst nightmare." Moises Bismarck Medina de Leon. But the demons, are they real? 2 asks. No, stupid. That's another Greek mythology of NLP that we use to manipulate the masses. Forgive me, Patriarch President, but our movie is coming to an end, and if the son understood it without even entering here, it's better that I tell him personally to 2 who has been sitting at this table for more than 30 years. 9 responds to the President and brothers. Ah, that's why the Queen of the English peoples had a great nightmare when she had to descend into the underworld with 3 archdemons in the Second World War. That was to save her people and prevent more destruction in the land of her peoples. Finally, 2 realizes, it's one of the prices that must be paid to these demons. 1 confirms. Sure, blah, blah, blah. What we are saying is what you have to continue doing, too, for this old institution. 6 reminds him, very irritated. You don't have to remind me of anything because I already know, and it's because I like to do what I feel is right, which is different from being just, since it's my nature. 2 replies. That's why we appointed you as the representative in this temple, because you are the only one who could play the religious game while we, the demons, cut flowers with a saw for our missionary rituals. But to be sure that you continued your role as the front face of this old temple, we added some counterweights, some security locks. That's mean, making you see demons everywhere. 3 confesses. Why do you think I'm so foolish? I know that it's a small group of psychopaths who continuously abuse the peoples just because they know 2 more secrets of life and think they are the rulers of the world and take advantage continuously. 2 exposes. Run, activate the Pharisee Praetorian Council, and attack that city of sinners immediately. 9 shouts desperately and very nervous. But the Son of Man already knows about all the agreements made under the table for thousands of years between the chosen people of God and the people of the Holy Stone, because they still have the pretension that they are chosen by Yahweh, by the Holy Father, by God. In other words, we are the best on this earth, and that's why we have to be paid with all the gifts of this earth. And sometimes I don't know if they are, or we are excited rabbits, Irish elves, or shepherds of these human beings. Because we are not a single humanity in this beautiful world, that we live with different language. 1 says and asks vaguely to everyone in the council, and they, in turn, fall into a silence that shatters even the glasses of water near the table. And, at that pregnancy moment, some take anti-stress pills or migraine relievers. Then, 2, surprised with raised and disturbed eyebrows, suddenly looks at the PPF president, and he, in turn, immediately lowers his gaze, and everyone remains in a cold and eerie suspension. So, the secretary breaks the tension of the table by responding immediately to 9. But it doesn't suit us to go to that city, much less to that area, as it is full of watchers, snipers, and they are armed to the teeth. Believe me, 9, it doesn't suit us. The secretary assures and confirms the situation of that arena. Excuse me, but I have to go to the bathroom. Continue. I'll be back immediately. 9 responds and escapes from the council, sweating and trembling in diarrhea. And so after a brief pause, 9 continues. So, President, it's time to consider organizing the table of the 6 of the secret order immediately. 9 demands, very agitated. No, instead, let's cut the bull's head off immediately. Let's convene the synod of the 300 spiritual leaders and strengthen our global systematic knot, because without a synod, there is no church. The president of the council pulls out the horn because he can no longer bear this pressure without stopping. The synod of all the religions in the world. Why? This would be disastrous for humanity. Two protests very concerned about seeing another, perhaps the last world war of enraged shepherds against humanity. 2. Without religion, there is no humanity. Remember it well, so no matter what, we go forward because I will not retreat from my patriarchy, like none of the 300 pastors we have within the system. So why should we retreat now? No, over my dead body. The president of the council gets seriously upset and orders the execution of his masterpiece. Give me a secure line to call the rabbi immediately. The president of the council instructs the secretary. Immediately, Mr. President. The secretary rushes out to prepare the special call. Sorry, President, but how on earth did this son find out who we are? And how did he know who he is? However, our teachings that we gave him and the limitations he had. Now he's a mutant with so many abilities that he sleeps only a few hours a day and still has energy. 5 exclaims, very tired. It's the power of love, self-love, and love for others around him. The love of his master who taught us the Essene Joshua, Isa, or Jesus. It's that love that when you're tired, feeling pain, sick, you get up and keep running, continue with your duty, because you think of those people you love, whom you see every day. That old woman who tenderly cares for her flowers every morning and is happy for the time she dedicates to her community. Those newlyweds who are growing and living day by day in a new family. Those children you see going to school to strengthen and endure tomorrow's society for those who need you. As the Rosicrucians have also taught, the first rule, all the wisdom and power you have gained is for the service of others. They showed him who he is and the power he has within himself, to use that power only for the good of all, or else the universe will take away that gift. One thing we don't do despite knowing all this for a long time, but we use it only for our advantage, our greed, our insatiable appetite in society. And now we have to secretly chain our own Dorian Gray monsters under our ground. One explains in detail to the council, which falls into a deaf silence because they don't want to hear the truth. Be careful with your words, one. 4 shouts angrily. Patriarch, sorry, but the rabbi is not answering the call, and the cloud is down. The whole surveillance system, Cloud Eye, is out of service. We can no longer control. No CTV, no smartphone, no laptop, no cookies, but worse, no more mirrors and eyeglasses. The secretary sweatily communicates what happened to the president of the council. Carajo, then call the guns, plutocrats. Hurry up, it's time to activate the 3rd time. The president orders the secretary. And what happened to the plan to expel the Pan-European Union, PEU? 6 asks for a response from the European countries, but observing especially Germany. Then the diplomats from each of these nations enter, and they begin to discuss the issue, saying, well, until today we have collaborated with you to observe and verify what you have written and defined in this pamphlet, but it has been almost 3 years since he resides with us, and maybe it's true. He seems a bit crank. Others call him loco or insane. And what do you call him? Ah, yes, right, a pazzo. Because he has an intimidating face and often has a posture without showing emotions like Werner Karl Heisenberg, or sometimes recites verses of wisdom like Hermann Karl Hesse. But in the end, he is like a normal citizen with uncommon goals for many. But in the end, he is also interested in integrating, to enjoy his life with his family and friends. That's why everything you have said has been proven contrary to reality. And for this reason, we have decided not to proceed with this collaboration anymore. And I remind you that certain things are not allowed in our territory. The representative of Germany diplomatically replies. The guns plutocrats do not respond either. The secretary approaches the patriarch in order not to shout this news before the UP diplomats. But those experts at the table listen to him. Who? Asks the president again. The guns plutocrats, not George, and not even William, neither of them. The secretary emphasizes to the president. Yes. Where is my mind, O saint? This is too much. Give me a mate. The president is confused and asks for something to drink. And what is this definition they call madness? What they don't know is that his madness, ADHD, was a gift given by God, where the Son himself doubted who he was, what he had, because he felt out of the ordinary, because he felt he couldn't think like everyone else. And he suffered. He suffered seriously because he couldn't adapt to the way most people think, with moments of academic failure, job instability, conflicts in romantic relationships, addictions, depressions, anxiety, a chronic sense of frustration, low self-esteem, and more. So he wanted to seek or justify that limit that led him to madness, but that's what society told him. Until one day, while meditating in his room in the middle of a dark night, he spoke with God in the form of a shining Zeus covered in gold, as described in the ancient traditions of the African continent. And he said to the sun, "Do you know Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Michael Jordan, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, and yes, even comedians like Jim Carrey and Kevin Hart, not to mention the list of athletes and others, are your brothers in defects. So, what are you complaining about? Do you want a different kind of flaw? Thinking it over, instead of a flaw, I have endowed you with a splendid opportunity, a rather positive one, because you can turn this into a brilliant mind, a genius, of course, if you want to. Edward, Ned Hallowell. You can create a new characteristic of how to live in this world. If you manage what can harm you, then an impressive talent arrives. One with high creativity that common thinkers wouldn't reach, Will.i.am, creating innovative solutions, creating a blend between creative thinking and stable mind organization to find solutions. 2. Having regenerative energy, with passion and strong reaction in what they do. 3. An intense flow that leads to a hyper-focused mode, so much so that you forget to call your family because you lose the sense of time, with a laser beam concentration. Michael Phelps, if you combine it with mindfulness meditation. 4. Your entrepreneurial spirit, despite the negative consequences of risk. David Neilman refuses to use any kind of medicine for this gift, because you know you are a solution seeker. 5. Resilience and courage in the face of life's obstacles, because you know it's a phase like sleeping and waking up every day. 6. Super intuition and extension of perspective that allows you to see beyond common people, meaning you can break through the filters hidden in the darkness. Gerd Gigerenzer explains how intuition is a form of intelligence faster, with an intensity in what is the intellect of curiosity. So, intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. But then, we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift, the charisma. 7. Intolerance to everything that is boring. Paul Orfalea is dyslexic and ADHD too, and he comments how he gets bored easily, and that is a great motivation for me. And I think everyone should have ADHD for the search for novelty. But you must control your emotions. Furthermore, that madness gives him the input, confidence, devotion, or madness to do Kundalini without fear. Returning to the Council of the 12 Experts and their president, the PPF Patriarch. So, after receiving this response from the PEU, the Council threatens all the peoples of Europe. Do you want to run out of gas this winter, Germany? Keep protecting the sun and Urantia. I mean Ukraine. 11 reminds Germany, and at the same time, he looks at Valera, the Russian bear, and the Chinese dragon of Zhao. Exactly. Amerina is always interrupting our actions. She was the one who cured him of yellow fever. Alerting everyone. The sun has yellow fever. He has the yellow. And look now what we have. More than a dog. This is a lion in the forest. Angry Six says while looking at the president anxiously. God will provide. As you say, right. And besides, we have learned to seek solutions, instead of thinking about problems, not forgetting that since the time of Frederick II of Prussia, we know how to cultivate and cook certain potatoes that are very delicious. For example, we prepare simple but very tasty sauces for mashed potatoes. And yes, it's always a tuber that was apparently considered a demonic tuber because of its way of growing. Do you remember? Because it is cultivated and grows underground. Germany concludes and leaves the council with many other countries of the Pan-European Union. So, what do we do now? Expert 7 gets up from the chair. Valera, could you intervene in this negotiation, since we have always supported you in your affairs? Expert 9 asks the Russian bear for this favor. Don't worry, I already have some ideas in mind, and the extraction for this operation called Vigne has already begun. Valera confirms to Expert 9 to have more extractions of gold and other very significant raw materials found in that beautiful place remembered by no one. So they prepare for the attack of the arrow with the arcane flame. Quote, I can abandon God, but would not abandon my master. God is not equal to my master. God has given me birth into this world. My master has set me free of the cycle of birth and death. Sahajo Bai. Also, Valera meets with his best statisticians and the mastermind of chess attacks, and in the end, Valera decides to send some of his best bears, especially an archer, to do the most efficient job possible, something clean, without noise, but with the mark of the authenticity of his work, to launch a perfect arrow against the sun, against Heracles, a personalized arrow, with the mark of the governor, with the stamp of the patriarch who signs and guarantees this agreement, for their new intention of order that they have longed for decades. The archer sees him, studies him, and waits. Yes, waits for the perfect moment when time and wind are preferable for a single exact arrow. However, the sun notices it, but simply does nothing, stays still, puts his neck like Isaac, while looking at the innocent one, laughing with a fixed wink in the days before the attack, for the security, certainty, and effectiveness they have had in each previous attack. And this is the security placed in the bear, for its long list of eliminations, with so many medals for each act performed. What they don't know is that his family, yes, the big family, had already seen the incidents in the Council of Ascension in the fifth dimension, the relativity of time, and for this they had prepared a mantra that was ready, and they pre-announce it to the sun in the middle of a meditation about what will happen in a few days. Observe the beer bottle at the corner of the street. Therefore, the sun forewarns them all. See that I do not want to harm anyone. However, my hand does not tremble in the face of evil, and whoever stands in the way of my ecosystem, my life, and that of my great family, I will knock on your door and leave you a gift. He informs them all, and they are aware that the sun woke up from that illusory dream they sold him long ago, but now he is a watcher. In other words, he has a technique, precise like the mirror that reflects in the sun, against any energy, vibration, or negative intention, but increased like a water lens in the sun. I remind you, Mr. Valera, that the innocent informed us that the sun always goes out on horseback in full armor. Therefore, you cannot shoot any arrows at his head, much less at his chest or back, as it will be a small wound. So, you have to shoot that arrow on the right side. You know, the right side, since the left side was pierced more than 2,000 years ago. And also, this is very important, Mr. Valera. This has to happen in the vicinity or diameter of the Mother of Iron. The secretary informs Valera of the required details from the innocent to make an ideal attack with the authenticated signature of the council. Anything else you want to inform me? Since this is not a problem for my men whom I'll send to the field, the Alpha Bear confirms to the entire council. I almost forgot. Don't get too close to the sun when he's wearing the armor, because he has some superpowers that protect and defend him immediately. We don't know what they are. I think they're demons, the secretary reminds. Thanks for the notes, Valera says to the bear and closes the connection. So, on a morning in August, the son is busy doing what he is called to do every day in his daily activities. While riding his horse along the path from Breitestrasse to Tunisstrasse, approaching the cathedral of the city of Renania, something surprises him that morning. Yes, an arrow crosses him from the right side, moving in a diagonal line forward. The son moves backward with a natural and instinctive speed, as if an angel is moving his body. He dances the Rudra Tandava like Shiva, and instead of hitting him on the right side, they are only lucky enough to explode a beer bottle at the corner of that street. He retakes the path quickly, without looking back. He greets them with his left hand and 2 fingers, index and middle finger down, for those sovereigns he leaves behind because he has to remind them that he is a man of Pax und Leben. That is, his mission is to live an awakening in harmony with all parts of the world, but he does not tolerate abuses of power or those protagonists who wish to control the authority and history of others, making them slaves. As a consequence, a shooting star fell in the city of the bear Valera, taking a neuron from its oligarchic thinking system. Because the Lord of Spirits gave the sun unique defenses to be prepared with lethal and precise weapons to mortally destroy those who only wish to obstruct the new order of Saskia. So, he hopes never to have to use them against his enemies of his own race, of his own family, of humanity, for they are one. Because most of them are ignorant Russian families who do not know what they are doing, and moreover, those same families have already bent over in servitude and silence for corrupt leaders and rulers who take advantage of the authority conferred. Therefore, the patriarch sends a souvenir to the homeland of the bear, in his ceremonial farewell, prefigured in a religious painting, with the intention of entering a forbidden space to take away a soul that has done him no harm. He still does not understand why so much hatred, so much fear, in a son who was faithful to them until the last days, and the worst part is, he believed in them as promoters of peace for humanity. And as tradition dictated, they played Russian roulette without vodka, and after Valera's archer shot his arrow and failed, then it was time for the Son of Man, who had already seen in a revelation how he arrived in that cold place and approached Valera Bear head-on and aimed a cold Gleich at his head. "What can I do now?" Valera asked the old seer anxiously. "Avoid this expansionist war game before forcing a drastic change in your destiny, as this would shorten the remaining days of your life. Ah, beware! Avoid also to meet the Son of Man. This is more significant for your life," the old woman advises Valera, leaving him frozen in his own reflection. Subsequently, the council continues to study millenary solutions to the growing problem, because the more they try to sink the sun, the more they make him grow stronger and obtain more of that implicit wisdom. Otherwise, we will lose our history after so many centuries. Expert 12 ratifies the possible outcome if everything mentioned does not work. And what happened to the 2 special collaborators who entered his workplace? Why didn't they finish the task of neutralizing him? Desperate and discouraged, Seven asks. Well, official sources informed us that when one of the 2 Icaros saw the sun up close and looked him in the eyes, face to face, he thought, "This man truly believes in God." He simply stood still because he didn't have the courage to throw the weapon away. He looked at his colleague, and they left the bar. The secretary reports to Seven and the rest of the council. So we must send others who are not so deficient and stupid. Angrily, Seven expresses to the council, "We are already doing that, sending and hiring more Icaros, but we lose contact with them, or they disappear." The secretary explains to Seven how anomalies are occurring in their system's networks. "I'll be back now. I have to go to the bathroom." Seven quickly gets up and hits the table with a dry fist. "Brothers in Christ, let's not forget the original book we have here, which has always been very effective with our distant friends. 6 recalls excitedly about the previous results. You mean the Codex Gigas? 4 asks, scared. No, I mean the magical steps of the Grand Grimoire, White Lamb. 6 responds, irritated with 4. Yes, but they've already cast some curses on him since before birth, in his childhood, and throughout his life. However, our experts in occultism and exorcism can't do much because they found that he is favored by God and protected even by the devil. Just like his grandmother is a defender of the soul, the so-called white doves. So powerful that she follows him and protects him wherever he goes. Not to mention the chants, sutras, and prayers of the sanghas that open new dimensions with their mantras, along with the old divine sage, exiled to penetrate fearlessly every demon that approaches the sun, like the roar of a lion. Instead, the Sufis watch him attentively from above. Consequently, we need more infants for the sacrifice of new bone marrow, and more women for the apocalyptic celebration of the Roman ecclesiastical code collectors. The secretary receives a red folder from one of his assistants from the Chiesa. Do it again, and again, with other spell books because we have so many. Go beyond spells, beyond the Greek magical papyri, the PGM, otherwise why are we paying these people? The president desperately says to the entire council. But President PPF and brothers of this council, don't you remember that time, almost 20 years ago, when the sun was running to get to university and almost fell into that construction site? Yes, exactly. Where there was a long and deep hole, filled with steel rods to cross without any problem. However, at that moment, yes, at that precise moment, he had to fall and die because we started the ritual with all the instruments and energies we could send against him. Instead, the sun with one foot, with his right foot, made an inhuman jump to avoid the fall, regain his stability, and return to running again because he was late for his university introduction class, although he himself wonders how he did it. 5 reminds everyone in the council. I hate this wicked one. Every day this sun is more unpleasant to me. An enraged 6 shouts while starting to scratch the skin of his right arm due to aggressive allergic irritation. And we all know he had an angel by his side, and not just any type. It was an archangel. But 5 stops immediately because he didn't want to scare the council members. Ah, but who are these? The sons of Balaam who, instead of cursing him, bless him, 2 says because he did not know this detail. Not to mention that big family which is a new order with the new alliance in all peoples, yes. That family of redemption, meaning that there are also Indians, mystics, esoterics from different religious currents, Hindu, Buddhist, Gnostic, pagans, and even Sufis joined with the Shams al-Ma'arif and the Gayat al-Hakim. 1 reminds everyone on the council. But I think this lady is dead. I mean, her grandmother is in heaven. Furious, 6 responds to the council and continues to scratch his skin, and immediately begins to inflame the skin with a red hue, and blood begins to slowly seep out of the micro-wounds he is causing. Exactly. Now she has stepped out of time and space, moving easily and always staying around him. The secretary closes the insistent question from 6. Oh, Holy Father, wait. Don't forget that he was also in the seminary. Have they cleaned all the records there? Who was his rector back then? 4 asks in a hurry. Yes. In that, God has been marvelous, all clean, like the white hairs of a sacrificed lamb. 1 says. Why so quickly? 4 is surprised in eagerness. His rector ad interim at that time died. The secretary explains to 4 what happened. He's in paradise, blessed be heaven. 2 says and pauses to offer a brief prayer for this blessed soul. Excuse me, but I need to take my medications. I'll be back right away. 4 withdraws with a strong cough and puts his hands into the pockets of his purple-colored suit. Forgive me, esteemed 12, but I take this moment to ask how your beautiful personal assistant is doing. What's his name? Damiano, right? 2 asks 12 about Damiano and their strange relationship. He's fine, but he's no longer my assistant. Now I have Tommaso. 12 responds annoyed to 2 for meddling in his personal affairs. Ah, yes, of course. Always younger and smarter, these new secretaries. This name always reminds me of that evangelizer and follower of Jesus, whom we did not accept due to incompatibility, right? 2 sarcastically tells 12. What do you mean by this? 12 angrily asks 2. Nothing. But given the responsibility you have as head of the reforms, can you explain to me whether being homosexual or gay is a sin or not? Because I don't know what to believe anymore. Desperate, 2 asks his colleague 12. What do I tell you? 12 stops, not wanting to answer that question, and is saved by the furious interruption of the president. 2, enough! The president shouts angrily at 2. It's just that I need to know, do homosexuals lie, steal, or murder someone? Just because they don't suppress the love they have for someone, then I don't understand why innocent people have to suffer. 2 says to the expert 12. 2, don't be insolent. And can someone tell me how the son knows these things in advance, if he didn't have access to our files, and is not part of our secret circle? The president becomes impatient. Quote, from some crack, the smoke of Satan has entered into the temple of God. Pope Paul VI. We have a spy. It's like this virus, this evil pandemic. 4 shouts angrily. Please, 4, stop here, and let's take a break. The president looks angrily at 4 as they begin to retire for a short break. While the entire council is on pause, 1 speaks with 2 in a separate part of this magnificent structure. Dear 2, I want to remind you that homosexuality is not something to persecute or ghettoize as it once was. Quite the opposite. It's about tolerance and equality for all, without any repression. But it's natural that sexuality is divine and was biologically designed in 2 sexes for natural procreation between man and woman. Otherwise, this conversation wouldn't have started because you and I wouldn't be here. The end of humanity. 1 explains to 2 without much beating around the bush. I understand you, but why go from one extreme to the other, from persecuting the individual to promoting and allowing changes in ignorant children? 2 understands and asks 1. Because of ignorance. You said it right. Remember how the book of Genesis begins. It explains how the sacred act of sex, making love, is the foundation of life itself for humans, and how much power our sexual energy has. Understanding the use of this energy, it can lead you on the path of awakening or drop you into the abyss of total corruption. 1 shares with 2 some secrets of life. Yes, 1, we know the divine proposal of love. And we know very well the relationship between the sexual and the divine, which is indivisible, even though we don't share it, because creation is always sexual, and from there, we all come into being. From stones, we evolved millions of years ago into plants and flowers. From there, sexual procreation makes us evolve into animals of all kinds, and finally, we arrived, the new creation of the cosmos, humans. But this old institution invites us to voluntary castration when there is nothing more beautiful than 2 heterosexuals in balance with the universe, with the Lord of the spirits, making love to give new life. 2 lets 1 know that he reads the book of Genesis well, beyond the lines that are enclosed in brackets. So, do you remember the following words from Genesis 1:1-2? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. 1 reminds 2 of the first verses of the Bible. But we are talking about homosexuality, not about God. Confused, 2 responds to 1 again. Exactly, dear brother, but considering that God is everything. Let's not forget that in Hebrew, the word God is written in the plural, Elohim, because Moses didn't want to indicate a single masculine god, El, or alternatively, Ella, feminine goddess. That is to say, Elohim, God and goddess who came together in communion with the pleasure of pure and intense love. So this would be said, God and goddess who create a new life. Without natural union, there is no creation. One reminds too of the creation of the divine, because life is born from sex, and the love of both grants that authentic and original canvas to the new creature to integrate one more block into this bridge that bridges the gap. Perfect. We are also gods. So, why do we insist on the virginity of Mary, the mother of Jesus? 2 asks another incongruent question to 1. That is only ignorance and science fiction, which are together for creating more confusion, because for the reincarnation or birth of divine and pure beings, with a connection to the higher realm of this world, it is necessary to have a superior sexual act, that is, make love. 1 tells 2 how things really are. Superior sexual act? 2 asks impressively to 1, yes, by the conscious transformation of matter into a form of higher energy, and the odds are higher in a virgin woman of faith or purity of blood, because she has faith in her as a divine being. That's why decides to be a mother by natural choice, in harmony and love, not by imposition. Look at Krishna and his virgin mother, Shakyamuni and his virgin mother, Perseus and his virgin mother, Mithra and his virgin mother. They were all born through sex, as an act of love between 2 human beings in tune with the universe. How do you know who you are and what your proposal of love is? 1 explains to 2 the advantages of a superior sexual act. And why don't we show this to the world, dear brother, to our faithful who keep looking in the wrong places, repeating the same mistakes due to the same desires that will never fulfill them, continuing to repeat the same wheel of life and death infinitely? 2 asks 1 desperate to tell the truth to the whole world. This does not depend solely on me. 1 sadly responds to 2. Returning from the break in the council, 12 takes the floor. But now our secret files will not have the same power in controlling human minds, because those books that we have chained for centuries, yes, all those volumes that support the awakening on the path of the human being, now they have created a new virtual tool to share it freely with everyone. Yes, all the peoples of the great family of Zion, and no, that is all. Desperate 12 shouts in council. What tool? What power? If power is a trick, is a shadow which can convert a little man biggest than a monster. Very curious, 8 asks. A QR code. With an integrated Charles GPT that provides simple answers to all the hermetic questions we have built. 12 responds to 8 discouraged. But this is a satanic instrument, sharing these esoteric secrets through a tube and 4 faucet. No, we cannot allow it. We have to stop it now, immediately. 4 proposes to the president and the council. But what are you saying, 4? Do you remember when you came in here, you were more ignorant than any animal, and look now, you haven't died. So why not give the same opportunity to other people that will be like fresh water from a waterfall that falls into a spring, because it always flows continuously, and is not stagnant water forming only small larvae. 1 calms the anxieties of 4. And what do we do with those homosexuals and transsexuals that we let into our headquarters to enslave them to satisfy our most depraved carnal desires? 11 asks the council. What? The president plays dumb. Damn. Yes, those who were on their knees asking to be accepted in this world and spoke to us even through the 3rd ear. 5 sighs. But what have we done? We use them as an object to use and discard. Yet, at the same time, they protected the son in the midst of his training. 10 answers. Just like the most beautiful women in this world are always at the gates of this house to satisfy us in all our golden baths and polyamorous events. And what have we done? Banned even to prostitution, one of the oldest professions in humanity, one of the oldest in this world that has prevented so many atrocities of man. 7 confirms. What? Exclaims the president of the council. Yes, practically it's like experiencing déjà vu twice in the same place naturally and without a condom. Blessed be these LGBTQ, with their rainbow flag, exclaims 2 to the council. Oh, Holy Father, this is blasphemy. It can't be. This shit is over. 9 shouts melancholic and sad. Just as we banned a natural herb like the marijuana, which is also used by the mystics with the same stupid prohibitionism law of alcohol in the 20s in America. 1 responds to everyone while looking into the eyes of President PPF. After a short pause, 3 speaks. They say that the son had access to the special notes of Marcello Pellegrino and the other 12s who worked on this project. Moreover, he has improved the technology made from the chronovisor. Mentions 3. Impossible. Who is he? The tenant agent. The president reproaches him. I can't tell you, President, but I've heard that they have developed another technology called chronovision, where they can see future actions, and worse yet, they can read thoughts in real time. 8 comments to the president and the council. If the other peoples have this chronovision, that is more than blasphemy. This is extremely dangerous and fatal. This would totally kill our God. Just the fact that people can see future actions and correct mistakes, this would be the worst deterrent to avoid conflicts, wars, and shortages of all kinds. The nuclear would be relegated to the background. Then we won't have anything exclusive anymore. We won't have anything to sell. What will we sell then? 6 gets agitated before all his brothers. But if we haven't had anything special, we've only taken without permission. Then we can invent another story to live. 1 responds to 6's concern. 1, enough. Please. The patriarch and president of the council, tell 1. Others say he could read the true 3rd secret of Fatima. 3 responds to the president, very nervously. 3, please. Be silent, because this entails seals terrible consequences for us, and our predecessors have already done so much to calm those turbulent waters. Remember that even the penultimate was wounded. The president reminds 3. Oh, sorry, excuse me, it wasn't my intention, but what duality we have without control. And 3 shuts up immediately. At that moment, they all pause for a few long seconds that show an unexpected disharmony, disagreement, and impatience. But we can always integrate a detonator gift in his car, since if I remember correctly, the son loves driving cars. And this technique has been very effective in our territory until today. Just remember how close we were in Parioli with Felania, who was saved by a star from Costanzo that protected her. 10 presents another solution to apply in the following dynamics. No, because he uses a fixed car and always changes the means of transportation. Well, now he seems to be E.T. on a bicycle, so this solution doesn't suit us either. Sorry, but I need to go to the bathroom. The secretary responds and immediately leaves the table. Did you also hear that he withdraws alone and meditates continuously to control his integrated creatine? 7 asks, reassured by the peaceful vein that the son has. True. He loves to meditate because it makes him live peacefully in the present, and at the same time keeps his mind healthy and clear like an elephant, just as he takes care of his body and the soul that remains stronger. And while he meditates in silence, he memorizes the names of each of those on his list and asks the Lord of the Spirits to give him the necessary time to settle some outstanding accounts, just to provide balance to this world, to this new order of Saskia, before retiring in peace with his family. And so, he has started to erase some names from there. Confirms 1 with serenity in his voice, while responding to the question asked by 7. What made him change so radically? 7 continues to ask because he is baffled that someone managed to break free from their darkest deceptions. Well, I heard that he embraced a powerful lingam made in India. 2 responds to 7. But he hasn't been to India yet, 7 says, angry and incredulous at what 2 just told him. Not a Shiva linga of representation or souvenir, but a true human reincarnation that, when she heard him, meditated together, lit incense in the midst of nature, and he embraced her. She cut the bonds of samhara, soul, to lead him to the existence of Brahma's evolution that resides in Vishnu. 2 answered to 7. Impossible. No one can break our bonds. 7 becomes furious with 2 because he still can't believe what he just heard. Well, dear brothers, as you already know, and thank God I don't have much time left to live in this world, that's why I believe and hope to leave before having to meet the Son of Man in person, to be able to have a serene death with our Savior. 4 confesses to the council his delicate health situation and sees this as a relief, as the only ticket to get out of this complicated and dangerous situation. Don't fear, 4. Just because someone like the Son, who is a little child in front of us, who have so much, but so much experience and resources, what is there to fear? Don't pay attention to the fact that he has also come into contact with many, and has even joined the Cathars. There's nothing to worry about. No, not at all. Moreover, I have heard that he recites Poncio Telesino frequently. But it's just because he loves poetry and songs, like every weakling and art lover, you understand. Nothing more and nothing less. 2 wants to calm 4, since it's not the end of the world, only the beginning of a new era. It's just that I fear the prophecy of Saint Malachi, because the president is the patriarch 112, and our empire may come to an end, the end of our truth. Fearful, 4 shouts to the entire council. Are you referring to our half-truth? 1 says to clarify. Shut up already, 4, 1 and 2. The president shouts at all of them. Poncio who? Asks expert 6, who is a bit furious because he doesn't know who this historical figure is, and his ego suffers a bit since he considers himself the absolute intellectual in the council. Poncio Telesino, of Samnite origin. 1 responds to 6, the intellectual. Sorry for the ignorance, but I'm not a history expert, nor a geography one. Since I have dedicated many years to reforming this great temple of God, together with the brothers and our president, and as you already know, I am the master of the finest arts of our clergy. But, well, you already know that. So, where does this thing come from? This Telesino? 6 asks with a certain refined arrogance. More or less from the parts of Benevento. Yes, from that southern area that you don't like much, full of poor people. Poncio Telesino comes from there. He's the one who created the maxim. Rome and Sila must be razed, for there will always be wolves and predators of their freedom unless the forest that houses them is uprooted. But no, I don't think he's dangerous. No, he's just a simple dove. He's a mystic who talks to animals and plants in all forms. 2 stops very calmly. No. Then we have to form our army again to fight for evangelization, like the Knights Templar, because we have to go out and keep attacking. Exhausted, Expert 8 proposes. Are you sure, 8? Look, they already did a very ugly ending in the past, and the reputation of the Crusades not to mention. 1 reminds 8. Because you're not up to date with our secret society. Ha ha ha. 8 mocks 1 because certain information that he doesn't like is not shared with him. Do you remember the Austrian monk and white supremacist? The one who was always dedicated to the occult? 8 whispers in 1's ear. Who? Adolf Joseph Langs, the father of the Order of the New Templars. But this was abolished, right? 1 freezes because he connects all the dots in a fraction of a second. Ha ha ha. 8 laughs out loud. Silence, both of you. The president of the council orders them to be quiet because he doesn't want to give more details about that internal-external order of the Chiesa. No scandal. Brothers of eternal faith, this is not a lion, it's just an inexperienced little child. He can't touch us, because we are the reincarnation of the apostles who were with Jesus Christ according to the Bible. We are princes and king of this land, and only God can judge us. 9 advises to promote these macabre ideas. Meanwhile, everyone laughs cynically. Why? Do we believe in reincarnation now? Surprised and confused, 5 is with 9's proposal. We are the representation of the apostles on this earth, but it's the same. One word or the other. The important thing is to save our skin, and then we repent to come out again in Sella del Cavallo, that is not in Sardinia. Do you understand, 5? 9 suggests to everyone in the council. Oh, holy God! But if we believe in reincarnation again, we lose our resources, our wealth, our empire. We have always based ourselves on that. Otherwise, what's the use of our version of the Bible? In the end, Benedict was right with his prophecies. Desperate, 7 exclaims. Shut up, 7. The President PPF reprimands him with much fury. I would say to transfer our rooms to the castle against the Angels of Light, since it's safer. Let's not waste time because we must start moving through the secret tunnels we have. 3 suggests, very scared. Here it says that one of the first places the Son visited when he lived in the Eternal City was the castle against the Angels of Light. He knows every angle by heart, and moreover, someone gave him the keys to the doors, says the secretary, sweating cold. Change all the locks on the gates and reinforce the doors of the entire city and the castle as well, orders the president of the council immediately, desperate at the current situation. Quote, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. What counts is the courage to continue. Winston S. Churchill. And wouldn't it be easier to hand over the throne to Benedict? The blessed predecessor. Let him deal with this hot potato. After that, you can do the same maneuver as before. What do you think, Mr. President? One thinks aloud and proposes this to the president. No, over my dead body. And we excommunicate this worm, this paraplegic of the sun immediately. Because we are kings and celestial princes. And this is just an atheist man, like his father. Furiously, the president responds, so be it, Your Excellency. Let it be your will and not mine. One makes a brief prayer upon hearing that angry and hateful response. What do you mean with that one? What is your point of view? The patriarch looked angrily to 1. Why do you call them atheists? When I have met all kinds of atheists here. And this reminds me of what I once discussed with my friend Swami. Here we have many types of atheism, such as convenience atheists, because they are here just to survive and are too busy with their own lives. What to eat, what to wear, and where to sleep. Then we have philosophical atheists, who say that science has excluded this variable, God, from the equation. Immediately after that comes the emotional atheist, because he is angry with God only for casual problems that have happened in life. So here we also have the hidden atheist, who has simplified and generalized everything into this mystical spirit, just as we have the psychological atheist, who for fragments of time forgets that pure and formless energy to realize himself as such, I am. And finally, we also have the transcendental atheist. Yes, the most dangerous of atheists, because they are found within many religions, occupying high positions, but these individuals feel superior to the Lord of Spirits, and so we must praise them every week, sing hymns to them, and serve them as kings, because Jesus must carry their cross for them. One explains to the patriarch all the atheists he has encountered there. 1. Please do not be insolent. The point here is that we must quickly excommunicate this son of man. The patriarch reproaches him, very angry. Dear Patriarch, the point is that there's some games you don't get to play unless you're all in. The other thing that's so interesting about being alive is that you're all in. One respond to the Patriarch. All in? Caramba, che! I still do not understand, the President says. Duel him. You're screwed no matter what you do. You're all in, because this is gonna kill you. One stare in the eyes of the President to say the truth. Shut up, one. Calate la boca. You are immediately excommunicated out of this room. Screaming the President to one. Brothers, calm down. So, Patriarch, I think you might as well play the most magnificent game you can while you waiting. Because do you have anything better to do? Really? Also, to suggest to the Patriarch to do the same. You too. Out of this blessing room. Tu, carajo, caramba, che. Irritated, the Patriarch replies to two and excommunicate him too. So quiet and relax both one and the other, stand up and go out of this old room to never come back. Until 8 take the opportunity to talk, after 1 and 2 are far away. It's true, Patriarch. If we excommunicated him, like Martin Luther, or worse, keep him isolated like the Hebrews did with Baruch Spinoza. Desperate, 8 proposes a direct attack on the Son. He doesn't give a damn about being excommunicated. This Son knows that God is within him and not within an old institution. I mean temple. 6 responds discouraged and nervous to the entire council. 6, please. Control your Borgia's veins of Matador Español, the President says to 6. And why do we have all these resources and influence? Let's use more snipers, gang members, criminals, bombs, throw acid in his face, or send more men, Icaros, to this operation. More exhausted, expert 8 proposes. Stop, 8. Enough already, and we'll close for today. I think we have enough information to work with, and I still have other matters to attend to. The President demands to close the council for the day, since he can't miss his physiotherapy appointment while observing through his glass window the young nuns waiting for him. From there, he jumps to an international business conference taking place in London for a bloody showdown between the Icaros of the Patriarch and the Son of Man. Why don't you come to our place, to our Enavaculo? Look at how beautiful it is, and you are always welcome here. That's why we prepared this wonderful area, the most beautiful one, here in London just for you. The President of the Council shouts at the Son because he's waiting, wearing a meek sheep suit, but he smells the sweat of rotten hyenas underneath. So, the Son closes the Enavaculo with a circle and leaves without looking back. Because I learned well from Brutus and Caesar, my friends. Pocatu, brute, fili me. Not forgetting like they sold a Cesario, a Julius Regeneration. Hala hala, stupiti, you sold a son of Ra, who was an ius sanguinis. Imagine what end an ius soli can have, always marginalized and having to wait years for absurd excuses, but obviously, all this was simply due to strange internal reasons, pure chance. He also doesn't forget the sacrifices made by so many brothers and sisters, like the last warriors. Adonis, strangled to death, Wilder, punched to death until losing his life, and Jerome suffocated. And how to forget my sisters? There are so many, and I can't mention them all, even though they are in my heart, because they were in my most difficult moments and helped me in everything, without hesitation, with loyalty. Thea and her kindness, Marina and her motherly care, Inanna and her bravery that makes the Horn of Africa fearsome, just like Govinda Jaya Jaya, who knows it and spreads her unmatched affection vibrations through all the channels of criminal Babylon until reaching her sisters at the sun station in the Eternal City, to the building of the stone, like true warriors. Also, Durga, like an invaluable gift, appeared in the midst of the total chaos in which the sun finds himself and puts all her power into a single cause, a humble blonde lamb that doesn't resist evil, that stands in the way despite seeing how bitter the water is. She risks her life and that of her beautiful mammal, her quadrupedal animal, her little wolf, named Moria. However, she is a visionary and could see the risk that was at stake, her life, but she doesn't hesitate for a moment and always gives everything of herself, her mind, body, and soul forward for this mission, for humanity, for the peoples of this land. Not only. She picks him up and protects him in her own home for years when he was completely abandoned and betrayed by his previous brothers. The son closes a chapter of pain with love because it has given him the opportunity to meet people with the same principles who wake up every day to give their best for their people and those around them.